Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. Good evening. Happy Black History Month, everyone. My name is Corinne Landauer. I am the co-director of the Montgomery County Chapter Democratic Black Caucus. Um, we have been doing some amazing things in terms of uplifting and working in furtherance of our mission, of our organization's mission of uplifting and supporting um, Black candidates, qualified Black candidates. And we have been highlighting uh, local Montgomery County Black history. Every day we've been sending out an email to our contact list highlighting Montgomery County history, past, present, and future. We are so proud to have wrapped that today with our first Black female commissioner, Jamila H. Winder, being our highlight of today. And the gentleman I bring to you, having been highlighted in past days, Mr. Oliver Canady, uh, OC, as he is affectionately called, is our membership director and has been highlighted because of his tremendous work. I know we talked about data collection. Someone had brought that up. OC has been a champion of data collection since the inception of the caucus. He has championed an activist code in Vote Builder and has made that code available across all campaigns, across all of the county, so that we can identify Black voters and be able to reach out because to the point that was made earlier, data collection is key. And it is key to being able to understand who we have out in the community, and that's how our opponent has been able to win and be successful in the past. So we want to be able to be armed with data, be armed with voters, especially Black voters, because we are the most loyal voting bloc that the Democratic Party has. So to be able to identify Black voters in the third largest county in the state, in this swing state of Pennsylvania, is an amazing task. And I know that OC has been, well, I'll let Mike get into that, but OC has been an amazing champion of data collection, amazing champion of membership, to increase membership in the caucus. And I'm so proud to bring him to the stage this evening. So happy Black History Month. And I bring to you Mr. Oliver O.C. Canady.
Hello, OC. OC.
Hey, I was having a little trouble on mute and I was clicking on the wrong button.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Corinne. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. Um, and thank you to all of the attendees for attending tonight and to Michael for putting on this panel to get information out to the community. I truly enjoyed Mr. Carter's presentation on Family Empowerment Plan. And I appreciate him putting that together. I think it's very powerful, if it is implemented, and the key is implementation. And another key is having a strategy. Mr. Carter talked about that, and what I'm going to talk about tonight is a different strategy that, as Corinne said, is focused on data collection. So what I want to do is kind of just provide you with some information. Hopefully it's information that you'll be able to take and use in your communities, wherever they are. So I'm going to start by sharing a screen that see, hopefully will work. Can everyone see what's on the screen?
Yes.
All right. So just to give you a little background on the Montgomery County chapter of the Democratic Black Caucus. Corinne is the co-director, and as she said, I'm the recruitment director for the Pennsylvania Democratic Black Caucus Montgomery County chapter. And we are a wholly aligned subsidiary of the Pennsylvania Democratic Black Caucus, of which Michael Laws is the chair. Our mission is to create political and economic equity, and our goals focus on building our membership, promoting voter turnout, registering new voters, and training and electing Black leaders. So that's what we're about as an organization, and we have done more things than I can enumerate this evening, within Montgomery County. From putting on Juneteenth's event, having fundraisers for local Black candidates, we have done voter registration drives, you name it. We have done it. But my focus tonight is on an initiative that we began working on, and shortly after we were formed as an organization in December of 2021, and that is a process known as the Black Voter Identification and Documentation Initiative. So what's involved there? It is to identify and to document to the fullest extent possible all Black voters within our county of Montgomery, and which is, as Corinne said, the third largest county in the state of Pennsylvania. So we intend to identify every Black voter and to document that and have that information available for us to use in a database going forward. We would be able to use that to recognize the voters for being involved in the election process. We'll be able to use it for looking to identify candidates to run for office, to do voter registration within households, to help move things like the Family Empowerment Plan out into communities. So when we began talking about this in December of 2021, the first thing we thought to do is, okay, well, how do you do something like this? Well, there's a whole bunch of ways you could do it. You could, have meetings and bring together, Black voters and, get your information that way. You could go out and ask people, who do you know that's a Black voter? All right, and we're going to utilize every possible method to do that. But what we thought, what we came up with as the lowest hanging fruit for implementing a process like this. Okay, what do you need? You need a database to put the information into, and you need individuals to gather the information. So we thought, well, all right, what database should we use? Well, there's already a database of voters, all voters, and it's known as Vote Builder. It already exists, so why recreate the wheel? Why can't we just use Vote Builder as it is? Well, Vote Builder does document ethnicity, but we found out that the ethnicity information within Vote Builder is completely wrong.
Please explain that one. Go into detail. How you challenged me on it.
Well, let's put it this way. 75 to probably 90% of the ethnicity information in Vote Builder is incorrect. No one seems to know how it got in there, into Vote Builder. But what we found from empirical evidence from going out street to street and looking, comparing what's in Vote Builder to who the voters are, we found that if you were in a white neighborhood and you went out and identified the Black voters in that neighborhood, they're in Vote Builder 75 to 100% documented as white. And if you went into Black neighborhoods and you identified white voters, they're incorrectly identified predominantly as Black. So no one can explain that, why that is, but you can't. Vote Builder is completely useless in terms of, in terms of being able to be used for our purposes to reach out to Black voters. So it's now necessary for us to scrub that database to correct the information that's in there. So I don't know this if that adequately explains why we can use the database, but we can't use it as it currently exists. Hopefully everyone understands that. If not, put a question in the chat and I can explain it further. But it isn't necessary, but we can use the database, but we need to update that database.
Yeah, can I explain? Can I jump in?
Mike.
Sure. Yep. So what happened was, I remember we had a race in 2021 and I was using activist code. As a matter of fact, we were actually trying to reach Black voters in Pittsburgh, and we were doing, we thought we were doing well. We thought it was accurate. And then OC challenged me and he said, hey, you know what? Your database is wrong. And he went around and tested it out. And he was persistent. And I kept saying, no, it's got to be right. And he proved to me it was wrong. And so it meant that all of the data and all the information we were sending out, we thought was reaching the Black community, wasn't. And those messages were targeted specifically for Black people. So this, when he talked about this process and how we needed to straighten it out, I said, absolutely, because it's so important to understand messaging is key. Messaging takes care of everything. And if you got the wrong message to the wrong people, it's just not going to work. And that's where we were before OC came in and fought for this process and set the entire thing up.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to say anything about that, but since you did. So we needed to have a workforce to gather the information. So we have a database that we can use. We just have to scrub it. And so the lowest hanging fruit as far as a workforce to do this would be people who are already in the process of talking to voters. So as we were looking at developing the process, we said, well, who's already out there talking to voters every election cycle? It's committee people. I happen to be a committee person. James tonight is told us that he's a committee person in his area. Committee people are the most important people in the party. We're the ones that are out there every election cycle, knocking on the doors, talking to the voters, and we're the ones identifying, Black voters when they're out there. But we weren't doing anything with that information. So we said, well, let's, how can we use those this volunteer workforce that's, hundreds and maybe thousands of individuals within Montgomery County that are out there every election cycle. So the idea came up of using a activist code that could be used when the canvasser is at the door to document when they come in contact with the Black voter. And that code would allow the voter record to be updated correctly within Vote Builder. So that is what we landed on as the first step in this process of identifying and documenting Black voters. to have an activist code that volunteers can use when they're out in the field and on an ongoing basis. So beginning in January of 2022, during the first election cycle, the primary of that year, we started this process. And the process is ongoing. It'll be ongoing for as long as necessary to completely scrub the database. That's the goal that was established. So I'm going to quickly run through what it took to make that happen. I hope I don't bore you, but this is what was necessary. And it's what you really wouldn't have to do all of this, because by us having done it on a statewide basis during the 2022 election cycle and 2023 election cycle, statewide, for statewide campaigns, this is already done. What you would have to do is get the activist code in your vote builder within your county at the local level. But for the state level, we've pretty much done that. So the steps involved were to create at the county level, which MCDC stands for Montgomery County Democratic Committee. We needed to have an activist code created and then shared with our committee persons and local groups organizing efforts on a local basis. In Montgomery County, we have 15 different areas within the county. It's a huge county, and these 15 areas, they each have numerous municipalities within each area. So first off, I will just say it wasn't just a simple process of reaching out to the Montgomery County Democratic Committee and asking them to do this. Corinne can attest to this was probably the most difficult step, was to get their buy-in. And we went back and forth, on numerous occasions, with first they're saying they were going to do it, then saying they weren't going to do it. And, make a long story short, we finally, got what we wanted, which was an activist code, MCBC, which stands for Montgomery County Black Caucus. And that code is now on every script that is generated in Montgomery County, so that every campaign in Montgomery County has the activist code in the script. So in coordination with the Montgomery County Democratic Black Caucus, we would gather the names and contact information of all Montgomery County campaigns. There were 42 candidate campaigns that we had to work with in order to assist those state organizers with assigning access to their scripts. So that's what we had to do when we first initiated this in the first year. There were 42 campaigns that were going on in the 2022 primary, and there were local, state house, and state senate campaigns, and there were also national campaigns that were going on for, I believe it was governor, and it may have been a senate or some house seats that were open that year. So we had to create also activist codes with each of those campaigns: the House, Pennsylvania House, Pennsylvania Senate, and the national coordinated campaigns. The national campaign needed to get national approval, which we got. That actually was, as I say, the most difficult thing was to get the activist code, set up locally. That was more difficult than getting it implemented at the state or the national level. Once we had the activist code, it wasn't too difficult to get those other campaigns to buy in. Once they bought in and they got approvals at the national level, they were able to incorporate the MCBC activist code into their campaigns at the state level and for national campaigns. So the information that you're seeing on your screen now, these are the people that I had to work with to get that activist code implemented. We had to work with the state Senate executive director, the gubernatorial senatorial campaign coordinated director, and also the House. I don't have that on there. Yeah, I do here. The House field director for the Pennsylvania House, and then the data director for the state to actually put the code out for all of those campaigns to use at the state level. And as a result, the campaigns in Montgomery County now utilize the activist code in door-to-door surveys while campaigning and collecting data. And when that's done, that data is collected, it is imported into Vote Builder. So that is the process. Oh, just a little background. When I just want to mention that I have done presentations of our Black voter identification and documentation process with all 15 areas in Montgomery County. So I have gone to committee meetings for each of the 15 areas over the last 2 years. It's taken 2 years to accomplish that. So I've done 16 presentations with 15 areas. And the response that we have gotten from committee people has been generally extremely positive. They appreciate what we're doing, and they are willing to help. They understand that we need correct data in order to maximize the what Black voters are doing for the Democratic Party. So I just want to give you a little background. This is a part of the presentation that I have done with each of these areas. It sets the background for why this is necessary. Over the past decade, from 2010 to 2020, the population of Montgomery County grew by roughly 7%, from 800,000 to 850,000. During that same time frame, the Black population of Montgomery County grew by 18%. All right. General population 7%, Black population 18%. Up from roughly 70,000 in 2010 to roughly 82,000 in 2020. The Black population during that time also increased as a percentage of the total population in Montgomery County, going from 8.7% in 2010 to almost 10% in 2020. I'm sure it's 20%, it's at least 10% today. So what that shows us is that Montgomery County's Black population over the past decade grew both in absolute numbers and as a percentage of the total population. But the Montgomery County Democratic Party has done a lousy job in reaching out to the Black community. It has failed and missed an opportunity to leverage a population that naturally votes for Democrats. And we are not going to allow that to continue. So what our initiative intends to do, by identifying and documenting Black voters in Montgomery County, we will correct the failures of the past by putting in place a system that over time provides organizations like ours with the information they need to reach Black voters in Montgomery County, using that information to do things from voter appreciation to GOTV to candidate and volunteer recruitment and much, much more. So I want to share one more thing with you. I want you to see what it is that the voter, that the committee people are using when they're identifying Black voters. This is what there's and when the committee people are at the door, they're either using their smartphone or they're using a paper script to document for Vote Builder what information they're getting from the voters. So for anyone that is a committee person, you'll recognize this. This is what the minivan looks like. This is the Vote Builder's script when you're at the door. And these are the an example of the type of questions that committee people are expected to ask the voter. The last one here is the Black voter question. MCBC outreach. Would you be interested in learning more about the MCBC? What we are telling the committee people when they're at the door is when you identify a Black voter or someone who appears to be Black, they don't have to, we're not asking them to screen for their Blackness at the door. Okay, we follow up with every person that's identified with the activist code. So the Black Caucus follows up. All we want them to do is if they see someone that appears to be Black, that they answer this question, yes. Or if they know the person is Black, they just answer it, yes. And then that automatically puts the activist code on the voter record. And that is it. That's the process. So I'm going to stop here, hopefully clarify any questions that anyone has about either the process or the activist code. Any questions? The rationale for why we're doing it?
Now, Mike, has that been added to Vote Builder?
No.
It hasn't been.
No. Well, for the different state, HDCC, the Senate Campaign Committee, they all have that ability because, we worked on that one a long time ago and they implemented it. That's no problem there. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to roll this entire program out around the entire state. And so OC, when, volunteered, and I think I recruited him to talk about how we're going to roll this thing out. Once it's been proven in Montgomery County, now we can roll it out to the entire state. And the executive director, actually, it was, I think we had a presentation last year, and I think the person, Sharice Street, said, this sounds like a great thing. He was able to actually talk to the person, Jason Salas, and they agreed that this is a great idea. And we want to launch this around the entire state. So I want to send a video of this, talk to each one of the chairs for each one of the locations around in our 67 counties. And we know there's certain areas that got Black people. There's certain areas that got a small amount of Black people, but we need to identify all of them so we can have a consistent message and do some really good outreach. Okay. So
yep.
Hopefully,
if I could just clarify, just to clarify,
yep.
This has been implemented in Montgomery County.
Yep.
It's for campaigns that operate within Montgomery County. It has been implemented for them statewide and on a national level, but the activist code is active for Montgomery County.
Okay.
So each county would need to, get their data person for Vote Builder to agree to implement the activist code within their county in order to use something like this, or to put in, or to implement a process similar to this. So for now, it's strictly Montgomery County.
Yeah.
Campaigns that operate within Montgomery County, they use the code. They have access, the ability to use the code. They've been given that ability to have it included on their scripts that are generated for Montgomery County.
Okay.
Can we stop the share so I can see if there are any questions? If you have any questions, let me see. Okay. Matt Muncy always has a good question, but he didn't raise his hand yet. So let me ask you a question. When you mentioned that one of the challenges that we had to deal with originally was trying to work with the different campaigns for them to understand the benefit of doing this. What did you discover the challenges were to get them to do it? And then what were the results after you got? Did it improve? Did it make it better? Share with that.
Well, as I said, the difficult part was the first part, and that was to get the local county committee to put the activist code, to implement the activist code, and then to attach that activist code to all scripts, and to agree to do that for all campaigns going forward. Once that was done, there was really not a whole lot of pushback at the state level from the House Democratic Committee or the Senate Democratic Committee, or any of the campaigns. They understood that it was to their benefit for organizations like the Black Caucus to be able to reach out to Black voters. They understood what we were doing and how important it was. So the campaigns were not the issue. Now at the federal level, there was there were just approvals that had to be obtained at the national level. So that was the only delay there. But the approvals came through without any problem. So I would say it really depends on the politics. Quite honestly, I think that local Democratic committee like ours, they don't want to share power. And for Black people to be able to communicate with each other, especially out in areas where there aren't that many of us, is dangerous to them. I think they see that as dangerous, because then we have, the power of our block. We're able to communicate directly with our voters on issues that affect us directly, and we can circumvent going through the local Democratic committee and reaching out to Black voters. In the past, the only way you could really reach Black voters was to have a Black event. Okay, to have an event, that invited, Black people to the event. And then what would happen is, it was always the same people. This way, you're able to reach all voters, regardless of how active they are. We are able to reach all Black voters. And I think it would have put us in a position to do, put in place other strategies like the family initiative. I mean, that's, again, if you know where the families are, you know who they are, and they're Black, that puts us in a great position. Let's face it, information is power. If there's one thing that we should have learned in this day and age, is that information is power. It's the equivalent of money. Well, I'm not interested in money, and neither is the Black Caucus. We're interested in empowerment. And this allows us to empower our community, no matter where we are and no matter how few we are or how many we are. As long as we know who we are, we can reach out to each other. And we have identified, and again, it's taken us 2 years to roll this out because this county is so large and it has so many committees. And for each one of the presentations, you have to, set up a presentation. You got to reach out to the area leader. You've got to get them to agree to bring you into a meeting. And then you have to schedule that meeting and do that presentation. So it's taken 2 years to do 16 presentations. But we're close to documenting 1,000 Black voters in Montgomery County. And now that the ball is rolling, that number should increase dramatically. In fact, in the last 6 months, I'd say we doubled the number of individuals that were documented using the activist code.
Wow. Well, OC, I really want to thank you for all the effort that you put out. I could tell you, working with data and working with Vote Builder as a Vote Builder administrator, and you and I had many telephone calls and many conversations about trying to get this thing done. And you've just had a Herculean effort to actually make this thing happen. And so I'm so happy it happened, and I'm recruiting you to help roll this thing out county by county. I know you can do it. We need that help. Okay. Are there any additional questions?
Well, I hope that means I did a decent job. If no one has any questions, but okay.
Okay. Well, I think you did. I think you did an excellent job. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So I can tell you this, it is now 7:45. We started on time. And we were actually thinking this was going to be an hour and a half, and I think it's around an hour and a half right now. So with that, I want to tell everybody I appreciate you for showing up for this series. We had the very first one presentation, and we talked about what problems were. And it's always important when you got a problem to talk about what the solution is. And I want to absolutely say the Family Empowerment Plan is the solution to the problem. If we implement that with the use of Vote Builder and being able to identify our Black voters and working on straightening out the database, we will be unstoppable. And I think that's something that the Democratic Party should get behind and should believe that if we have the good Black voters and they're educated and we're sending the right messages out, we could really win as the Democratic Party. Because without us, what I say again, without us, what does it mean? Will we win? They need us to do that. Black people vote at a higher rate than other people do. Black men vote at 93% for the Democratic Party, 93% for the Democratic Party. Black women vote at 98% for the Democratic Party. So we are the base. And by using these tools, by using this messaging, and being able to roll this thing out in Pennsylvania, we will be unstoppable. And I want to thank these gentlemen for making this presentation today. I want to thank everybody for showing up. And we have recorded this in its entirety. And this will be ready for presentation at the PA Dems Facebook page within 3 or 4 days. I want to thank everybody for coming out again. Once again, Brother James, is anything else you want to say?
No, I'm pretty good right now. Just thanks for the opportunity to to present this to the group.
Okay, thank you. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your wisdom and the things that you've done. Thank you. We appreciate you, right? And thank you so much from the statewide Democratic Black Caucus and all the things you guys have done in your areas. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.